Hello and welcome back. Today I want to talk about something that I hear people talk about a lot when they are trying to make friends, and that is I've noticed people express frustration with other people's lack of ability to talk deeply about things or go in depth on particular topics. This is something I've heard in my immediate circle. I've also heard it online a lot, like, oh, I'm not talking to you if you're not going to get deep, because I want to get deep right away. And I'm a deep thinker. I'm a critical thinker. I'm an independent thinker. I want to discuss the deeper meaning of life. I want to get a little bit more complex. I consider myself a complex person. All of these things. If you have said one of these things to yourself or to someone else about making friends, and you feel like lack of depth is a barrier for you to creating and maintaining new friendships, I am here to tell you that you might have it all wrong. Because here's the thing. People are deep and people are complex. We all are. We all want to explore the deeper meaning of life. We all want to talk in depth about subjects that we care about. And universally, being deeper with people is naturally what's going to connect you to them. So I would caution you from assuming that the person you're talking to is not as deep or as complex as you think you are or as you want to be, especially if you're just meeting that person, or especially if you've just met that person recently or you don't have that much of a history with that person, because I hate to break this to you, but it's actually so normal for people not to want to go deep the first time meeting you, the second time meeting you, or even if they just don't know you that well and they just haven't spent that much time with you. If you're in a position where you've identified, I'd like to make friends, and what I want my friendships to look like is a relationship where we can discuss things on a deeper level. I can kind of explore the deeper parts of myself with somebody who's going to give me valuable feedback. I'm happy for you. I am happy for you that you've identified that that is the case, because that's definitely true. But you have to realize that people are not going to have enough of a connection to you for a little while after meeting you to really be comfortable going so in depth with you about particular topics. But you're assuming that because your interactions with that person have been less deep or less complex than you want them to be, that that person isn't deep or that person isn't complex. And that's not true. Unfortunately, I think you might be writing off somebody who is very complex and does really want the same in-depth conversations that you do, but maybe they just can't handle it right off the bat, or maybe they can't handle it in certain situations or certain circumstances. Maybe you're trying to talk to them after they've had a very heavy day and you don't even know the heaviness that they're carrying. Maybe they need something lighthearted at that time. Maybe they're looking to lighten up a little bit because they've had a really heavy day and they're just looking for a little bit of a more lighthearted conversation. And you're over here trying to bring them this depth and this complexity that they do in fact have, but they've just been dealing with it way too much that day. Because we all have a limit to how much time we can allocate to trying to explore the deeper meaning of things versus having a little bit of comic relief, having a little bit of lighthearted fun. Both of these things are important. You are supposed to be able to enjoy deeper conversations with your friends, and you're also supposed to be able to be lighthearted and have fun and just talk about dumb, stupid stuff. I'm here to remind you that talking about dumb, stupid stuff is one of the best parts of friendship. So don't favor one at the expense of the other. They're both important. Give people a chance, give people time to show you their depth, to show you what they really care about, and to show you that they are interested in the complexities of this world just as much as you are. And stop writing people off because you think they just can't get deep with you. I've even heard this exact take. I've heard somebody say, I don't want to talk to you if you're not getting deep. I want to have really in-depth conversations. So if you're not bringing that to the table, I just can't be friends with you. And the reason that that stuck with me so much is because I used to be that person. I used to think that if someone couldn't match my energy on how in-depth I wanted to go on any given topic, I was kind of writing them off like, oh, well, this person's not even trying to connect with me because they're not trying to go deeper. Oh, well, this person just doesn't have the passion for this subject that I have. And to some extent, some of that can be true. And definitely after a certain period of time knowing somebody, you're gonna start to come to expect a little more depth from them, right? That's something that I think naturally should happen over time. What I'm cautioning you from is cutting people off or coming to a conclusion about how deep they are based on a few interactions with them. Even if you've known them 2, 3, 4 months, they still might not be that comfortable or in a position to try to have these deep conversations that you're trying to have with them, because maybe the stars just haven't aligned on this. Maybe they just haven't had the headspace for it because they're dealing with a lot. Or maybe the topic you're trying to go in depth on is not one that they're particularly passionate about, but they have a lot of very deep and interesting thoughts about other topics that you could explore, and that just hasn't come up, that just hasn't presented itself. So I'm not telling you that if you have a friendship go on for years and years and it's never gotten any deeper, you guys aren't growing closer and you don't really get the level of depth from that person after years of knowing them, I'm not saying that, that person definitely is deep, you're just not giving them a chance. Maybe at that point you assess whether that's really a friendship that you want to engage in and to what extent. But I caution you from establishing a belief about how deep someone is based on a few interactions with them or even just a few months of interactions with them. People have all sorts of reasons for not wanting to go so in depth with you. If you're a newer friend to them, they have a lot of heavy stuff going on right now, you guys aren't interested in the same things right off the bat, whatever it is. And again, I used to be like this. I used to be saying, I can't make friends because nobody wants to talk about the things I want to talk about, and they don't want to talk about them to the extent that I do, and they just don't have the meaningful input and feedback and advice that I'm looking for from maybe a more in-depth friend, maybe someone who's a little bit more complex. And the unfortunate reality is I was writing people off too quickly, thinking that they weren't complex because they weren't catering to the specific image I had in my head of how certain conversations should go or the attention that they should give to particular subjects or topics. And unfortunately, it was my own naivety that got in my way, not the other person's lack of complexity. Most people are complex. Most people. We're all going through the human experience. We're all living on this same earth. We're all facing massive problems every single day. We're all having transformational experiences. We're all trying to be strategic about our future. We're all doing all of it. We're all exploring the concepts and the questions that come with faith and with politics and with navigating life. Everybody's doing that. Don't be so foolish as to think you are the only one. But instead, be open-minded enough to realize that that person's situation is so different from yours, and there could be a million reasons why you're not getting in depth with them so quickly or on your timeline. But trust me, it is there. That person's depth is there. You can uncover it probably at an appropriate rate and within an appropriate timeline. You just need to keep showing up. You need to be open-minded and to keep showing up and putting the time in and the work in with your relationships if you really want to get the depth out of them. Because depth doesn't come out of nowhere. Depth doesn't come from you going up to somebody and introducing yourself and they open up to you and pour their heart out to you right away. That's just not how people operate. It's really not even normal. If that was the case, you would probably be annoyed with that person anyways because they'd be trauma dumping on you. So give things time. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Understand that most people are complex and that all kind of unravels itself with time. Not with being pushy, not with writing people off as soon as they don't go in depth with you about something, not with being judgmental, and not because it doesn't come on the time frame that you're expecting or that you would prefer. I promise you that person is deep. I promise you that person is craving connection on a deeper level as well. Either that or they already have it. That's another thing, is that a lot of people already have these very close and intimate relationships in their life. They're not necessarily looking to fill the hole that you are or looking to fill the gap that you are. There's a lot of people who aren't looking for friends, and you have to realize that as somebody who is looking for friends, that you're going to encounter people and you're going to introduce yourself to people who simply are not on the market for friends. at the same time that you really are on the market for friends, and there's going to be a misalignment, and you're not going to capture the attention of somebody who's not on the market of friends. But then you're going to come to the conclusion that they're not complex enough for you because they're never opening up to you or getting a little deeper with you. When in reality, that's not the case. The case may be they have so much of that in their life, it's really not a gap for them, and that's not what they're focused on. And that can be difficult to see from the lens or through the lens of somebody who is actively trying to make connections. You're going to meet a lot of people who are not actively trying to make connections, and that might be a barrier to them getting all that deep with you or trying to have more in-depth conversations with you, because they could have so much of that that they're just sick of it by now. Or they could just not even be trying to entertain that because they're not trying to attract friends into their life right now. They're focused on something else. Their life is at a different place, and that's fine. But it doesn't mean that they're not deep. It doesn't mean that they're beneath you. It doesn't mean that they're more shallow or more simple-minded than you. It just means they're not looking for that at that time. Again, I say all this because I used to be this person, and I've heard this same sentiment kind of regurgitated online or through my immediate community. And I've had to learn a big lesson on this myself. And once I realized this, it was extremely valuable and changed the way I approached trying to make friends or trying to have particular conversations with people going forward. And I hope it can be just as helpful for you. So that is it. I hope all of your conversations are better and that your friendships are more meaningful and more complex. So bye. I'll see you on the next one.